Shalom, family. That means peace. It's your brother Saint Micah here, with another Sabbath lesson for you. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a good week, and that you know, you've been keeping it righteous. You've been keeping the commandments. If you haven't been keeping the commandments, rest, refresh today, and then come back stronger tomorrow. This is a journey. It takes time and effort, to make it to the kingdom, right? As the Most High says, this is a perilous journey, right, on a narrow path, right? And the journey is so perilous that only one, person can really walk on the path at a time. It doesn't have space for two people to walk beside each other, right? We can all only walk in single file. And as we're walking in single file, it shows you that at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own salvation. Your priests, your pastors, your overseers, your leaders, your husbands, your parents can only do so much. We can only show you the way. We can only give you the water to drink, but you must drink the water at the end of the day. So that being said, you got to hold your diligence. And if you fall off, dust yourself off and, try again, right? Before Leah said it, the Most High said a righteous man, falls 7 times, right? Um, but he gets back up at the end of the day, paraphrasing greatly. Okay, so today we're gonna continue our lesson from last week, where we were looking at Juneteenth, right? And just breaking down why Juneteenth is a complete joke, man. you know. So we're gonna continue with that this week. Let's just pull up the video to see where we were at. And we'll continue to analyze and expose this Juneteenth sham, right, for what it is. Let's see here. Let's see what we got here. What do we got here? Okay, so I think this is what I want. So let's continue. Right. Yeah, this is exactly what I want. See here. Good. All right. Sorry, so just to review, we already showed how the 13th Amendment did not free the so-called Negro. Instead, it made it so that, the so-called Negro, who's the actual biblical Israelite, would now be subject to go into prison, to slavery. The 13th Amendment was supposed to free the so-called Negro, but instead it subjected the Negro to prison sentences that would put him back in slavery. So now you're free on paper, but you're still a wage slave to your plantation owners. And if you go to jail, you're able to still be enslaved. Okay, let's just look at that real quick. Right. And the crazy thing is, you will find out that it was easy to go to jail because they introduced, Jim Crow laws, the black codes, laws that basically said that unless you were signed, had written proof of employment, you could be arrested, which would mean that you were back in slavery again, right? And this didn't just happen in the southern states, right? And we'll look at all the receipts on those, right? So let's see. The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution provides that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime, right? Whereof the party shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States, all right? Or any place subject to their jurisdiction. What does that mean in layman's terms? You cannot be enslaved unless it's punishment for crime, okay? You cannot be forced to serve unless it's as punishment for crime. All right. And of course, soon after that, they began during the what do they call it? Reformation? I don't remember the name, but we'll look at it. Period. They began to criminalize the so-called Negro in order to put him right back into slavery, right? Not just him, but her and the children as well, which I'm hoping that we can read about today. I hope I remember where it is in my notes. So let us continue with this video. So in case you don't remember, from last week, we spoke about how teaching our people to vote was not good. You understand? This wasn't especially the women, but any of our people, right? Teaching our people to vote was not a good thing because God Himself said, "Do not put anyone over you, right, to rule that's not of your brethren." And we're going to look at scriptures that show you that God punishes you for taking on the ways of the heathen. You understand? And so-called democracy, which I like to call demonocracy, because that's really what it is out here teaching our people how to forsake our ancestors' ways and really the ways of the Most High that He wrote for us before the world was even created, right? Let's listen on. So here they are playing on your heartstrings, right? Trying to show you, hey, all these great people came out of this particular high school, and lastly, George Floyd came out of that high school, right? To play on your heartstrings, whether it be, your empathy, or just you having bought the American dream. They always like to show examples. Hey, these people made it through, right? But you don't know what these people did to make it through, right? We know because the Most High lets you know in the book of Luke, chapter 4. If you're gonna make it at a very high level in this society, you gotta bow down to Satan. Let's go there. Let's go to Luke 4, right? Let's see how these celebrities really get up to this high level, right? Luke 4. All right, we will go from verse 1. And Yahushai, okay, don't mind me saying Yahushai, that's his real Hebrew name. Okay, I don't use this name, Jesus, when I'm, speaking of the Lord, because the Most High says don't invoke the names of other gods, and this name Jesus is really the name of the image of the beast. All right, so you'll catch me saying Yahweh Shai. For you, I advise that you use any other name except this name, because this is literally the name of the image of the beast, right? Anyway, and it says, and Yahushua, being full of the Holy Ghost, returned from Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, being 40 days tempted of what? The devil. And in those days he did eat nothing. And when they were ended, he afterward hungered, right? So he was hungry after fasting 40 days. And the devil said unto him, this is the spiritual demon Satan, if thou be the Son of God, command this stone that it be made bread. And Yahushua answered him, saying, it is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but by every word of God. And the devil, taking him up into a high mountain, this is what I want, showed unto him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. So Satan, the spiritual demon Satan, shows Yahushua a vision of all the kingdoms of the world, right? In a moment of time, right? Just flash a vision before him so he see all these kingdoms, right? What else he showed him? Um, and and the devil said unto him, all this power will I give unto thee. What? Satan is saying to Yahushua, I'm going to give you all this power. But I thought Yahushua, was the ruler of the world. So why is Satan saying, I'll give you all the power? Let's see. Let's read on. All this power I will give thee, and the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and to whomsoever I will, I give it. Right? So you see, Satan says to Yahweh Shai, listen, man, all the power and glory of these kingdoms are delivered unto me. Who delivered it unto him? Well, the Most High, right? Because the Most High God controls Satan, and he controls he controls all the angels and all the demons, including the chief demon, which is the spiritual demon Satan, and Yahweh Shai, which is his son, the chief of all the he's above the angels, the prince, right? The Most High controls them both. How can we prove that? When you go to the book of Job, Satan actually had to ask God what he could do to Job and what he couldn't do, right? If Satan had his own free will, he wouldn't have to ask God any permission to harm Job. You understand? Okay. So Satan says to Yahweh Shai, the Messiah, the world is given to me, and whoever I want to give it to, I give it, right? Watch how you get the power though from Satan. If thou therefore wilt worship me, all shall be thine. Okay. All right. So when you see these people out there that have it all and they're in Hollywood and they're celebrities and stuff like that, how did they get it? They bowed down, they worshipped Satan, and therefore he's given them everything. Okay. Now, Satan's agents on the planet are the so-called Edomites, the so-called Caucasians. Okay, they're not even Caucasians because the Caucasus Mountains, according to the scriptures, are the lands of Japheth. So they came and they stole the name of that land. They're Edomites, right? The so-called European, those are the agents of Satan on the planet, right? And when you go to Daniel 9, verse 26, it proves that by telling you that the people of the prince, meaning the prince of darkness, would destroy the city, the holy city, Jerusalem. And that was done by the Romans. The Romans are the descendants of the Greeks, okay? And Daniel 8 and Daniel 7 tells you the Greeks will be ruling the world at the very end when the Messiah comes back, all right? So that's how we know that. So again, if you want to get all these things, you got to bow down to Satan for it. So that's how our people got all these things. Okay, so don't fall for the trick and the hijack when they show you all these successful people, and tell you, yeah, they got it by their blood, sweat, and tears. No, they got it by following the ways of and worshiping the spiritual demon Satan. right? Which is what you're doing once you're not following the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God, right? We're not speaking these things as if, we're above these temptations. And we ourselves have never gone through these things. We've gone through these things, but we've realized what was happening and we've changed our lives and started keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God. All right. Let me see. Is there anything else I want on that? No, I don't think so. Let's move on. Okay, so I mean, you gotta dodge that hijack like like it's a bus coming to hit you, right? Because we know we're not Africans. Okay, there were no enslaved Africans sold by other Africans. Okay, thus saith the Lord, right? And let's have a quick look here. Let's see here. All right. Let's see here. I want I want Genesis 10. Let's go to Genesis 10. All right. Genesis 10, verse 6. The sons of Ham, right? Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan. All right. Now, who is Mizraim? Let's see Genesis 10 uh, in the blue letter. Uh, 10, all right. 6. The sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. All right. Mizraim is what? How do we know who Ham is? Okay. Well, we find out who his sons are. Cushite, right? Many of us may have heard this term already. Cushites are Africans. Canaanite, these are Africans, right? Phut, these are Africans. Watch this. Here's the big clue. Mitzrayim, which is Strong's H 4714. Mitzrayim, okay? Mitzrayim is Egypt. See here? Egypt. You understand? Often more fully, the land of Egypt. Okay. Also, the Egyptians. All right. Commonly in prose writers with a plural. All right. Uh, and so on and so forth. Okay. But the point here is that Mitzrayim is Egypt. And it's in all of these descriptions. You see here, Egypt, Egyptians, okay, in the Brown Driver Briggs, which is well respected. Egypt, Egyptians, Mitzrayim, okay. So if the sons of Ham are Cush, okay, your so-called East Africans, if I remember correctly, Ethiopians, your so-called Ethiopians, Mitzrayim, Egyptian, Put or Foot, and Canaan. Okay. These people, I'm not too sure who they are. I just know that they're African because they're sons of Ham. Okay. And I know Ham is the father of the African. All right. Put and Canaan. And of course, Canaan, the Canaanites are the ones that were in the so-called Middle East. They were in Israel before we were there. These are the sons of Ham, so-called Africans. Okay. Now, Ham is the sons of Africans. If we go to verse 22, right? Because remember, the point here is that we the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, are not Africans, right? And even the scholars know this. Um, uh, if you pull up this book called the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary and you look up um, Ham in that book, let me see if I can find it. It'll tell you, let's see if I can find it. One second. It'll tell you that, Ham is the progenitor of the dark races, but not the Negroes. And why it says not the Negroes is because the Negroes are not Hamites. Okay, we are Shemites. All right, let's see. Zondervan Bible, Compact Bible. See. Bible Dictionary, I should have put Compact Bible Dictionary. New Compact Bible Dictionary, NIV. Do they not have the Zondervan here? Is that what's happening? Let's see if it's in this one, Illustrated Bible Dictionary. Let's see if the entry is in this one. I have one downstairs. I would have to take a minute to go get it to show you guys. I just want to see if I can find it here first. One second. It's not in here. Give me a second. I'll just run downstairs and grab my Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. And I'll read you the entry out of there. One second. Right, all praises. All right. Ham. This is the can everyone see me on video or no?
God.
Okay. All right, so it says here Ham. Let me pull this up. Ham. This is the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. All right, page 213. Right. And it says Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. You see that? All right. So even looking at this book here, put or foot is likely the Libyans. Okay. So the point here being that Ham is not the progenitor of the Negroes. Okay. So we are not Hamites. All right. So our brothers and sisters are sorely deceived, thinking that we are Hamites. Okay. We are not Hamites. And here we're going to go back to Genesis 10 in the scriptures and it'll tell you exactly who we are. Okay. It says the children of Shem, Elam, and Asher, and Arphaxad. This is the name you need to remember. Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. All right. Um, let's see here. And the children of Aram, Uz, Hul, Gether, Mash. Here's another part. Arphaxad begat Salah. Salah begat Eber. Okay, this is really Heber. Okay, and unto Eber or Heber were born two sons. The name of one was what? Peleg. For in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan or Yoktan. Okay, let's see here. Uh, this is Ebar, not Eber, Ebar. Okay. All right, which is the root word of Ibar Yam, which means Hebrews. Okay, but let us go to where it gives us more continuation for Peleg. Okay, so unto Eber we came out of Arphaxad. Okay, Shem had Elam, Asher, and Arphaxad, and Lud and Aram. We came out of Arphaxad, right? Arphaxad begat Salah. Salah begat who? Eber of the Hebrews. Okay, all right. Eber had two sons. One was Peleg. Peleg is important here for us. Let's see here. When we go to the next chapter, 11, right? And we look at from 18, says Peleg lived 30 years and begat Reu. And Peleg lived after he begat Reu 209 years and begat sons and daughters, right? And Reu lived 230 years, meaning 32 years, and begat Serug. Reu lived after he begat Serug 207 years and begat sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years and begat who? Nahor, which is Nachor or Nachar. And Serug lived after he begat Nachar 200 years and begat sons and daughters. And Nachar lived 20 years, 29 years, and begat Terah. And Nachar lived after he begat Terah or Terah 119 years and begat sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram. Here's the key. Terah begat Abram, Nachar, and Haran. Now, why is that important? Because we're going to go to Luke 3. Remember, Terah, all this coming from Arphaxad, now it reached down to Abram, which we know is Abraham, right? Because the Most High changed Abram's name to Abraham, all right? And it's right here in 29. Abraham and Nachar took them wives. The name of Abraham's wife was Sarai. The name of Nachar's wife, Milcah, son of Haran, father of Milcah, so on and so forth. And then it tells you in the preceding, the chapters after, that the Most High changed his name to Abraham, which you can read yourself. Okay, so Terah lived 70 years and begat Abraham. Let's go to Luke to see why this is significant. Luke 23, 3 and 23. Okay. It says, and Yahushua himself began to be about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph. So right there it tells you Yahushua was the son of Joseph, which was the son of Heli. And it goes on and tells you his generations. And when we get to 34, it says, which was the son of Jacob, which was the son of Isaac, which was the son of Abraham, the son of Terah, right? So Yahushua came out of the line of Shem. Shem is not Ham. You understand? Therefore, we, the people of the book, we, the Israelites, the brothers and sisters of Yahushua, cannot be Hamites. We are Shemites. Okay? So I think that's it on that. All right, let's continue this thing here. Now, some of this might be review. Please excuse me if it is, but we're trying not to miss anything. All right. All right, I just want to point out that you know, the sister said we took the shackles off, right? So I want to show in the scriptures when the Most High said the shackles would be taken off of our hands, okay? So this is Deuteronomy 28 in the 47th verse. It tells you the shackles will be taken off of your neck when you've been destroyed. So having shackles taken off of your neck and your hands and your feet, that wasn't no victory for you, man. Because it would mean that now you're destroyed, right? So they can let you free. They can let you go because now they've shackled your mind. So your body no longer needs to be shackled, right? And as we watch this video, all you're seeing is an example of what it looks like when a people is shackled. We're celebrating freedom, but we're not free. We're still subject to payments as we looked at last week, right? You are still a slave the minute you commit a crime, or the minute they convict you of a crime, because many innocent people have not committed crimes and are convicted of crimes and so now become slaves again, right? And you're still a wage slave, right? Like I said before, you're still here in Babylon subject to payments when we used to subject people to payments, right? We were the ones that people had to pay tribute, which is tax too, right? Now you got to pay your taxes or you're going to jail, right? So we're not free. It's just an illusion, right? This Deuteronomy 28, verse 47. Because thou servest not Yahweh thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which Yahweh shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. See that? So the reason that yoke of iron came off of your neck is because you're destroyed, right? So they can they can now let you go, so you can go wild in the streets, right? And twerk half naked, man. You can go wild in the streets and kill your brothers and sisters now, right? Right? So now they no longer need the yoke on your neck, you know. They can let you loose now because you're destroyed, right? You have a Christian mind now, right? So they no longer need to shackle you, right, in a physical sense. Okay, moving on.
Excuse me, is there a video supposed to be sharing?
Sorry?
Are you supposed to be sharing a video or?
Yeah, what happened? It's not coming through?
No, we haven't seen it at all.
What?
Yeah, we're seeing you.
Wow. Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay. But you guys have been hearing me speak though, yeah?
Yeah,
All right then. Better?
we.
Okay.
Celebrating the day. You'll see announcements about picnics that are related to the holiday.
A lot of people for those celebrations dressed up in their Sunday best. They would just be joyful. There would be parties, church services, in a lot of the communities, whites didn't want to recognize those celebrations. If some of those former slaves had jobs, they couldn't get the day off to celebrate. A lot of the city officials said, well, you can't have your celebration in the city. And so that would push those celebrations out away from the city in rural settings, in pastures, meadows, groves, wherever. They went with the flow.
I guess my earliest memories of celebrating Juneteenth would be when I was a child. Juneteenth was always a big celebration in our community.
Eventually, you'll see the establishment of parades. We know in Houston, we do have a couple of parades. In fact, Juneteenth, Queen and King.
Family get-togethers, community get-togethers. You would have barbecue, watermelon.
Ribs and hot sausage.
Ribs and hot sausage, family, right? Church services, ribs and hot sausage, okay? Abomination eating, right? Learning, the religion of Satan, right? And eating sausages, man, right? And parading, half naked on the road, man, right? And pageantry, right? And dressing up in your oppressor's flag. A dog, a devil, according to the Most High, right? Happy that he's pseudo made you part of his nation, right? Is this not a destruction from the Almighty? You know, there's nothing to celebrate here. You know, man, they really did a number on our people, man. You know, and this video, you know, was put out in, what is this, 2021, right? Look how happy this guy is to be talking about this, man, about the destruction of his people. No beard on his face, just lost, you know. Let's go on.
Red soda pop, those were the staples. You had to have all of that on Juneteenth. You must have that barbecue.
In recent years, Juneteenth celebrations continue to include parades and music, but most importantly, a focus on the food. And one restaurant that continues to provide Juneteenth meals, even amidst the pandemic, is Lucille's.
Feeding all the people they can, this fine dining Houston establishment, home to a culinary artist carrying on the family's legacy of African-American excellence in gastronomy.
Beautiful.
This Museum District restaurant is Lucille's. It is where the past meets the present on a plate. Restaurant itself is named after owner and executive chef Chris Williams' great-grandmother, Lucille B. Smith.
Often noted as Texas's first African-American businesswoman. She created the first instant hot roll mix in the history of this country, which is a recipe that Pillsbury borrowed to create their empire. This is verified by the Chicago Tribune in 2014. She was the first national African-American food editor for Sepia magazine, which is now Ebony magazine. Her client list included everybody from LBJ to the Roosevelts, Martin Luther King, to Muhammad Ali, to Joe Louis, and all points in between.
Chef Williams continues the family legacy, having hosted President Biden. But it is not just the powerful for whom he hosts or prepares food for.
So we
All right, so
provide
a couple of things here, you know. First of all, the brother let you know straight up, Pillsbury stole, you know, his mom's recipe. You know, he said borrowed, but I mean, how do you borrow a recipe, you know, and go make, you know, the same food product with it, you know, and they're not seeing the profits, man. You stole it, right? Because God knows and has already told us that, you know, Esau is a robber, man, right? Right? Let's see here. There we go. Isaiah 42 and verse 24. Who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? Did not Yahweh, he against whom we have sinned, for they would not walk in his ways, right? Neither were they obedient unto his law, right? So the Most High sent you a robber, man, to rule over you, right? And steal your ideas and take credit for your work, right? Because you didn't want to keep the commandments, right?
service to all the historically black neighborhoods from
Also, you know,
Sunnyside.
they're celebrating, you know, feeding these damn devils, you know, Biden, a chief devil in this kingdom, right? Why are they celebrating, you know, giving food to this demon, right? Again, the mind is destroyed, right? We've been you know, our mind has been hijacked into demonocracy, right? Let's see what the Most High says about choosing things that he doesn't delight in, right? Let's go to Isaiah. Let's see here. 65, this is a good one. Right, verse 11. But ye are they that forsake the Lord, Yahweh, that forget my holy mountain. His holy mountain is his people, that prepare a table for that troop, What troop, right? What soldier, right, has gone around the world and taken over everybody's country and furnished a drink offering unto that number? What number? The number 666, the mark of what? The beast, right? Who the Most High says is the so-called white man in Revelation chapter 12. You understand? What number? 666, right? What the Most High have a problem with? You preparing a table for the troop, meaning welcoming that soldier into your house, that weapon, right? That dog, that Edomite, right? And he also has a problem with you furnishing a drink offering for him. Who do you make drink offerings for? Brothers and sisters in the truth. So if the Most High has a problem with you furnishing a drink offering unto the Edomite, the so-called white man, can that man be in your church? Can he be sitting in your congregation worshiping the Lord with the people of God? Can the people of the Prince of Darkness sit in a congregation with the people of the Prince of Light and do a worship service and sing hallelujah? Come on, brothers and sisters, right? The Most High says no. Not only does he say no, watch how serious the offense is. He says, but ye are they that forsake Yahweh. So he considers this betrayal, that forget my holy mountain, that prepare a table for that troop, and that furnish the drink offering unto that number. Therefore will I number you to the sword. You hear that? And ye shall all bow down to the slaughter. Because when I called, you did not answer. When I spoke, you did not hear, but did evil before my eyes, and did choose that wherein I delighted not. You see that? Right? So when we're welcoming and choosing and bigging up and furnishing a drink offering unto these devils, you're pissing off the Most High. And he says he's gonna number you to the sword and make sure you bow down to the slaughter. And we're looking at this Juneteenth video, and that's exactly what has happened, right? While we're bigging up Abraham Lincoln, right, and trying to become part of these people's society, desegregate, the boot is on your neck and you're being slaughtered. And you still haven't changed your mindset. You still want to integrate. You still just want to be Esau's friend. You know? It's a sad, sad situation. And it shows the destruction mentally that we're going through. You know, the so-called white man has a name for this. He calls this the Stockholm Syndrome, where you fall in love with your abuser. Absolutely crazy, right? We need to get out of this. And the only way we can get out is by the Most High. He is the only one that could wake us up. We can talk to our people till we blue in the face. Only he can wake them up at the end of the day. All we can do is give them the information and be the light, be the example, be the love, be the compassion, right? Be the truth, be the pillar that stands up against evil. That's all we can do. But the Most High is the one to open the eyes. The same way Yahushua was the only one able to open the eyes of the blind, right? You see how deep this goes? This is so deep. Nobody can cure a blind man, but Christ came, mix up some mud and spit and put in the man's eye, he can see, right? Till the Pharisees had to say, hey, is this the same guy that's been blind all these years? They had to cross-examine the man, right? And his parents, right? How unbelievable it was, right? It just goes to show when you are blind, only God can open your eyes. right? Christ even told you, hey, listen, it's not given to me to make anyone sit at my right hand or my left. You know, it's the Father that draws you, and then I will train you, you know. Okay, let's go back to this video. So, I mean, you know, this bigging up, you know, this gloating about being a servant, you know, to Esau is wicked, straight up, right? And you see how they put it, you know, in this very seductive way. They got the music going and playing on your heartstrings, playing on your emotions, so you forget the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God. And this is what Esau is a pro at, right? The so-called white man is a master magician who excels at manipulation. What did God say? The devil is a liar, right? Satan is a deceiver, right? And if anyone has ever practiced deceit, you know it looks like truth, but it's not the truth, you know? Anyway, moving on.
The third ward, the fifth ward, the Acres Home.
Having founded the nonprofit Lucille's 1913, the year his great-grandmother birthed her catering business, and also the same year marking the 50th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation.
At our peak, we were doing 1,800 meals a day.
So I had a pork shoulder that I braised for about 4 hours.
It allows them to play with a ton of different ingredients.
This Juneteenth, he'll prepare more meals.
The barbecue chicken, the beans.
On top of the already 250,000 meals served.
And that's what we're working on right now for the menu for today. Getting ready to feed the people of Houston.
They're getting ready to feed the people of Houston pork shoulder. Yeah, I mean, let's go to Leviticus. Leviticus 11. They're getting ready to feed the people of Houston pork shoulder. Right? And boasting about it, right? First of all, the Most High said, when you're doing charity, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. So, I mean, you're not supposed to be speaking about these things, you know? And then second of all, you're giving the people abominations to eat, you know? Let's go from verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, these are the beasts which you shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof and is cloven-footed and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that shall you eat, right? Nevertheless, these shall you not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, so don't eat no camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the coney, which is a rabbit, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean to you. And the hare, all right, which is in the rabbit family, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean to you. And the swine, though he divideth the hoof and be cloven-footed, he meet two of the criteria, yet he cheweth not the cud, meaning he don't eat no grass. He is unclean unto you. Of their flesh shall you not eat, and their carcass shall you not touch. They are unclean to you. So the Most High say, don't even touch these things when they're dead. You know? It's unclean for you. You know? Deuteronomy 14. All right. Deuteronomy 14. Let me see. Got a couple verses here. From verse 1, it says, ye are the children of Yahweh your God. You shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead. Why? For thou art an holy people unto Yahweh thy God, and Yahweh have chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself, above all nations that are upon the earth. Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing. See that? So there's things we're not supposed to eat, straight up, right? And then I'll just skip down to 8. tells you the swine, because it divideth the hoof, yet cheweth not the cud, it is unclean to you. You shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass. That's plain, right? Verse 21, you shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself. This is how holy you are to the Most High. The Most High says you're above all people, right? He has different standards for you. You shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself. Thou shalt give it to the stranger.
Wow.
The Most High has different standards for you. Give it to the stranger that is in thy gates, that he may eat it, or thou mayest sell it to an alien, meaning somebody that lives somewhere else outside of your tribes. For thou art an holy people. You see that? Unto Yahweh thy God, thou shalt not see the kid in his mother's milk, which just means you can't kill your animals too early, okay? If it's still sucking on the breast, it's too young to be eaten. That's what that means, all right? The Jewish, the Jewish take this practically, right? And they're like, oh, you can't drink milk and eat any kind of sheep or goat at the same time. You know, this is how carnal these people are, you know? But that's not what that's saying, okay? Don't kill the animal when the animal is too young. That's what that means. Okay. So, I mean, we got clean food and unclean food. So you feeding the whole of Houston pig, yeah, that's not a good look, man. You know, and you shouldn't be doing that. You know? I mean, we're halfway through the video and it's just pure destruction. It's just pure destruction from second to second, you know? And most of our people are just gonna mindlessly do this until they die, man, you know? But all praise to the Most High that He's opened up our eyes, and I pray He opens up the eyes of more of our people that we might save our souls. You know, let's continue.
Delivering dignity and preserving history.
The restaurant does pay homage to her culinary freedom and creativity as a chef.
With fresh, elevated food.
It's exactly what we do over today at Lucille's. It's Southern cuisine with global influences.
They call it fresh, elevated food. Pork, abominations, fresh and elevated.
The word Reconstruction sounds good, and it started out well-intentioned, but it didn't stay, quote-unquote, Reconstruction, did it?
No. When we think about the period of Reconstruction, particularly here in Texas, we always have to think about the turmoil around politics.
The Democratic Party was conservative. The Republican Party was liberal. 1870 15th Amendment is what makes Black men's right to vote constitutional. And this changes the political landscape of parts of the South that had large Black populations. Black men start voting other Black men into office. Some places had Black sheriffs. So this immediately changes the politics of the South. So the Ku Klux Klan arises as the violent wing of the Democratic Party.
We're familiar with the KKK.
The Ku Klux Klan arises as the violent wing of the Conservative Party or the Democratic Party. It says the Democratic Party. But today, as soon as you see Black people at a voting poll, they're voting for the Democrats. Right? Why? We don't do our research. We don't know our history. A lot of us don't know ourselves. The Ku Klux Klan, right, represented the Democratic Party. Now, we know you shouldn't vote, period. But if you're going to vote for somebody, I mean, you definitely wouldn't want to vote for the Ku Klux Klan representatives or who they represent. But today, that's our automatic vote, especially in America and in Canada. You know, just wanted to point that out.
But there were a number of white vigilante groups that existed during this time that terrorized African Americans.
By the early 1900s, the black community had already established itself with neighborhoods, businesses, and schools. But blacks still weren't
All right,
considered
so I
as
just want
equal.
to touch on this for a bit. The most I told you, don't go and engage in these people's system. Learn not the way of the heathen. All right. See, I think that's Jeremiah 10. Right? He told you, don't go and involve yourself in these people's system. You went, you involved yourself in these people's system. So again, he sent Edomites, which are his sword. He calls Edom his sword throughout the scriptures. He sent him to punish you. He sent Edomites in white hoods with guns and knives to punish you, right? For your disobedience, right? Jeremiah 10, hear ye the word which Yahweh speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them, right? This democracy is not our way. We run on monarchy. You have a king, and the king run the kingdom. That's it. You have his chancellors, you have his court, and all of these things. That's how we run our thing, right? But you want to go and vote and involve yourself in demonocracy and get the payment. Now, on a deeper level, the Most High didn't even want to give us a king on earth because he said, I'm your king, right? And he said, if I give you a king on earth, he's going to take your children, he's going to take your food, he's going to take your gold. But the people kept saying, hey, we want a king, we want a king, we want a king. So he gave them Saul, right? And that didn't work out so well, right? That's on a deeper level. But back to the Most High punishing us via the KKK, man. Let's go to 2 Maccabees chapter 4, right? Watch what the Most High says, right? He told you, learn not the way of the heathen, you follow the way of the heathen. So watch this. First, 2 Maccabees chapter 4, from let's see, from verse 13, it says, now such was the height of Greek fashions and increase of heathenish manners throughout the exceeding profaneness of Yason, that ungodly wretch and no high priest, that the priest had no courage to serve any more at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise, the gym, after the game of discus called them forth. So this may be a little confusing if you're not used to the Old English, but what it's saying is this. This brother, his name was Yasan, which in the bastardized form of Latin that we speak today would be Jason, okay? This man, Jason, stole the high priesthood, okay, in Jerusalem, okay? Because he wasn't supposed to be the high priest, but if I remember correctly, he killed his brother or was plotting to kill his brother to become the high priest. And he had been given the seat by the Greeks or the Romans, if I remember correctly. And so he started pushing the Greeks. And so he started pushing the Greek ways of living when the Most High said, learn not the ways of the heathen. That's why he was called an ungodly wretch, because he was teaching the people how to be Greek. You see that? And then it says the actual priests lost all their courage to keep the commandments, you know, at the temple. They didn't want to do anything there anymore because this guy was supposed to be the high priest, the illegitimate high priest, was given power And he started having them play discus in the temple, man, in the temple courts. Now, was this a problem? Or why was this a problem, right? It's because when they played ancient discus, they would be throwing the discus naked, brothers and sisters. Okay, so they're in the temple courts throwing the discus naked. You see that? And this guy, Jason, the illegitimate high priest, right, by way of the Greeks, you know, is encouraging people to do these things, man. Right? In fact, they did all their sports naked, rustling, everything. Absolutely disgusting. Right? Which is why today our brothers and sisters are still half naked doing these sports. Right? Because it's an occasion to lust after people. That's what those things are for. Right? You know, you think it's for the glory of your nation. Where's your nation? It's not Jamaica. It's not Barbados. You're an Israelite. Right? Anyway. So that's why discuss was a problem, right? Now watch verse 15. It says, not setting by the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all. You see that? They were not setting by the honors of their fathers, meaning not following the honors of their fathers, but liking what? The glory of the Grecians best of all, which is what we see happening right here in this video, man. You know, they're following the ways of the Grecians and engaging themselves in democracy, and the Most High is punishing them for it, right? With the white hoods of the people that are the same ones from the Spanish Inquisition that was burning us alive, that was making us sit on iron spikes, right? And doing all sorts of other heinous tortures to us, man. Let me see if I can pull up the clothing that they used to wear. Where is the clothing? Okay, so this is the robes that you know, they were wearing when they came to do the judgment, but they had their robes also for the torture. There we go. There we go. Yeah. Right? These are the same men that were expelling our people from Spain and Portugal in 1493, right? And bringing them into the basement of the church and torturing them and burning them at the stake in the churchyard, right? And because you still want to disobey the Most High, he send them after you in the United States of America. You know? By the way, they still have these parades annually during Holy Week in the Christian faith, of which Catholicism is the father. You know. Let's go back to the scriptures. Not setting by the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all. Watch this. By reason whereof sore calamity came upon them. See that? So God said, oh, you like to be the Greeks? Sore calamity, terrible calamity, terrible destruction came upon them. Right? And was not slavery and Jim Crow and all these lynchings, Wasn't that terrible calamity? You know, the lynchings that are happening today, right? The killings of our brothers and sisters, choking them on the road, shooting them while they're in their house to death. Are these not terrible calamities? The Most High said, by reason, because they because they didn't follow the honors of their fathers and like the glory of the Grecians left, best, sore calamity came upon them. Why? For they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose custom they followed so earnestly, and unto whom they desired to be like in all things. So God said, oh, these same people that you want to be like, that's going to be your enemies and your avengers. Right? When you hear this, man, you got to fear the Most High, because that's a deadly trap. When you don't hear, you have to feel. When the Most High make you feel it, it don't get no worse than that. Right? Verse 17, why he do this? For it is not a light thing to do wickedly against the laws of God. You see that? And then he tells you, the time following shall declare these things, right? So even though he wrote this, you know, in about the year maybe 150 BC, this was written, right? According to the scholars, this was when the book of Second Maccabees was written. He says, but the time following shall declare these things, meaning you ain't seen nothing yet. At that time that the Greeks were destroying us, he says, the time following, and I believe that's talking about the times of slavery and Jim Crow and the Black Codes. That's what's going to show you how serious of an offense this was and how much I'm going to destroy you because you keep disobeying me, right? How much I'm going to let these Grecians that you love so much be the enemies and avengers upon you for you breaking my commandments, right? You're going to be like a little dog at their doorstep, and they're just going to be kicking you, slapping you, stabbing you in your eye, killing you, and you're going to just keep coming back like a thirsty dog over and over again, right? Until you decide to do something else, which is be obedient, you know? If you're taking notes, which I hope you are, Hosea 7 and Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 24 to verse 30, show the exact same thing. In Hosea 7, it shows the northern kingdom, the northern 10 tribes, going to Egypt and Assyria for help, man, and forsaking the Most High, and that ending in disaster. And the Most High promising them that it's going to end in disaster, right? And then we see the same thing happen in Jeremiah, the 44th chapter, from verse 24. I highly recommend you read that because those are powerful accounts to show you the Most High is not playing. If you made a covenant with him, you better keep it, right? Because he told you both sides of the covenant, the blessing and the curse. And the Most High cannot lie. So if he tell you something going to happen to you, if you do the wrong thing, that exact thing is going to happen to you because you did the wrong thing, you know? Okay, so let's move on with this video.
We're familiar with the KKK, but there were a number of white vigilante groups that existed during this time that terrorized African Americans.
By the early 1900s, the black community had already established itself with neighborhoods, businesses, and schools, but blacks still weren't considered as equal. With segregation and Jim Crow laws, they were still being treated like second-class citizens.
Let me pull that
Segregation laws.
Being
So remember, we just spoke about how the Most High
it.
said the people that you want to be like, that's going to be your enemies and avengers. That's what the scripture said. And this guy is bearing witness that this is exactly what happened. Well, listen carefully.
By the early 1900s, the black community had already established itself with neighborhoods, businesses, and schools, but blacks still weren't considered as equal. With segregation and Jim Crow laws, they were still being treated like second-class citizens.
Segregation laws restricted every public space where Southerners could possibly make contact. When we say Jim Crow law, we're referring to legal segregation. Boston creates segregation laws in order to separate black and white passengers on city streetcars in the 1840s. People in Boston started to refer to the black section of streetcars as the Jim Crow section. They did that because Jim Crow referred to a popular minstrel figure. Early on, it was white performers, typically white men, who would blacken their faces using burnt cork, but Jim Crow was the most popular blackface minstrel character. So popular that many white people in the United States began to identify the name Jim Crow with black people.
Here in Houston, you really can't think about Jim Crow laws without thinking about the 24th Infantry, African American soldiers who found themselves here at Camp Logan and found themselves the victims of police brutality and Jim Crow laws and segregation.
Right, you're absolutely right. In the summer of 1917, the United States enters World War I. The U.S. military was still segregated.
And
in the United popular blacken their faces using burnt cork, but Jim Crow was the most popular blackface minstrel character.
We can talk about Jim Crow a bit, right? They said that the Jim Crow laws separated black people and white people. All right. And they are speaking about this as if it was a bad thing, right? But let's hear what the Most High has to say about this separation, okay? Because according to the Most High, Jim Crow was good. You know, he cut you a break during that time. Hey, you don't have to deal with Esau. You don't have to deal with these so-called white people. You can have your own banks. You can have your own schools. You can have your own everything. Don't go deal with these people at all. Do your own thing. You know, but again, just like I said earlier, you get kicked in the face, and because your mind is destroyed, you're back again. Master, let me just get can you throw me a bone? Can you throw me a bone, Master? That's our attitude, right? Still in 2021, which is why they're highlighting this like it was a bad thing. But let's see what the Most High has to say, right? Let's see here. Let's go to Sirach 6. Right, Sirach 6 and 13. Right, it says, separate thyself from thine enemies and take heed of thy friends. I'm going to read that again. Separate thyself from thine enemies, right? And take heed of thy friends, right? In Deuteronomy 28:16, the Most High says, when you get off the slave ships, you're going to be sold to your enemies. So who are our enemies according to the Most High God? The so-called white man, the Edomites. God said, separate yourself from them, right? Sirach 12, right? Which is Ecclesiasticus. Go to the 12th chapter, right? And we'll read from verse 10. Never trust thine enemy, God said. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. What does that mean? The Most High is telling you, listen, man, the same way iron is going to rust, this man gonna do your wickedness. Don't trust him, right? Watch this. He breaks it down a bit. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass. So the Most High say, hey, don't mind this guy come humble, you know. Beware of him. And it's gonna be like you wipe a looking glass. What happened when you wipe a looking glass? You see more clearly what's going on, right? And thou shalt know, verse 11, that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. He's gonna turn on you, right? So watch him, watch how you act around him, watch what you say around him, you know. Don't give him this gospel, you know, because he's a snake. And as soon as you turn your back, he gonna bite you, you know. The Most High says, set him not by thee. Set him not by thee. So all our ancestors that had these people in their organizations and trying to work with them, that was a big mistake. Integration was a big mistake, right? Because God says, separate from your enemies, right? Set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. Now watch this. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent? And this is deep because the serpent is a spiritual demon, Satan, but the serpent is also the so-called white man. Revelation 12 tells you that God calls him the great dragon, the devil, and Satan. The great dragon is the serpent, right? Who will pity a charmer? You want to be a charmer? You want to play games with the so-called white man? The Most High say no one's going to pity you when you get bitten by that serpent, right? Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent or any as such come nigh, meaning near, wild beast? Nobody's going to pity you, right? The Most High is saying, hey, listen, I don't pity you. I told you, separate yourself by these from these people, right? And we as Israelites, we can't pity our people when we tell them, listen, man, this man will destroy you. And something bad happened to them and it's Esau that did it. You got to tell them, I told you so, man. When are you going to separate yourself from these people? Spiritually, you know, and physically, man. You know, chiefly spiritually, you know. But as this ship is sinking here, I'm trying to get out of here physically as well. But that's a whole other topic, you know. At the very least, I don't want to be in his cities, you know. So yeah, we lost because we're begging to be equal with Esau. But God said that we're above all nations when we keep the commandments, right? And, you know, we're talking about separation like it's bad, but God said it's good. That's my point here. Let's continue.
United States enters World War I. The U.S. military
of police brutality and Jim Crow laws and segregation.
Right, you're absolutely right. In the summer of 1917, the United States enters World War I. The U.S. military was still segregated. The military was constructing a training facility called Camp Logan.
So when these 700 black soldiers show up in Houston, Jim Crow is alive and well. And you got to remember, it's a new thing. And these soldiers had fought in the Spanish-American War, had gone up San Juan Hill, had fought in the Philippines. They weren't used to being treated as second-class citizens.
It all came to a head that August when Houston police officers were accused of attacking and killing one of the soldiers. Black soldiers of Camp Logan then marched from what's now Memorial Park to the city of Houston.
This was a push against Jim Crow authority.
Mutiny and rioting ensued.
It was a strike against police brutality.
16 white people were killed, mostly civilians. 4 black soldiers died. The deadly encounter led to the soldiers' court-martial, the largest murder trial in U.S. history.
I saw the photograph of the trial. That blew my mind. Here are these 63 black soldiers surrounded by white soldiers with fixed bayonets on their rifles. And caption said the largest murder trial in American history. And I had never heard anything about this, nothing.
In the end, 19 soldiers were hanged, and all but 8 of 118 soldiers charged were convicted for their part in the Houston riot of 1917.
So out of all of that, only 8 of them were spared. 19 of them were hung, and the rest of them, got the book thrown at them, right? Only 8 of them were spared out of all of that, and these guys are soldiers, right? Now, why, right? Why would that happen? Deuteronomy 28, 15 to 16. It shall come to pass if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field, right? Right. And more importantly, Second Esdras, or more appropriately, I should say, Second Esdras 6, right? And I think it's 69, no, from 66. Second Esdras 6 from 66. What? Hold on a second. Is it First Esdras? One second. $16. My apologies. Second Esdras 16. 6. Okay, there you go. $16. From 69 it says, and they that consent unto them. Remember, these are black soldiers. These guys have gone and joined the American army, and they're fighting for America in the Philippines. They're fighting for America in the Philippines, helping the oppressor oppress other people, right? For the illusion of freedom, right? For some cigars, some women, some money in their pocket, right? That they get in one hand and then give back in the next hand with bills and taxes, right? It says, they that consent unto them, the Israelites that consent unto the other nations, specifically Esau, shall be had in derision and in reproach, and what? Trodden underfoot. You see that? Right? I'll go from 66. What will you do, or how will you hide your sins before God and his angels? Behold, God himself is the judge. Fear him. Leave off from your sins and forget your iniquities, to meddle no more with them forever. So shall God lead you forth and deliver you from all trouble. So even if you were there in slavery, if you were keeping the commandments, the Most High would deliver you from trouble, man. For behold, watch this, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you. See that? That's the KKK. That's the U.S. government. That's the South. That's the North, man. You know, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you. Now, I mean, that was talking about then, but it's also prophetically talking about that time, and that time is going to come one more time. How do we know? Because it says the Most High requireth that which is past, right? The world's been going in a cycle, right? And this is the final cycle. After this, it's the rule of Jacob, you know, and that's pursuant to 2 Ezra 6:9, if I'm not mistaken, right? That which have been is now. Brothers and sisters, the things that we've gone through before, aren't we still going through them? The kind of leadership that you have in the world, wicked leadership that you have in the world, was this not happening in ancient times? That which has been is now, and that which is to be have already been. And God requireth that which is past. So he required this thing to go in a cycle. He required the moon to stay on its cycle, and the sun to stay on its cycle, and the seasons to stay on their cycle, right? And the ways of man to remain on their cycle till their time is no more, right? Okay. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you, right? And feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols, right? And that's twofold. Food offered to idols, which we saw they're eating pork, and I'm sure shellfish as well at that restaurant, right? And saying, whoopee, we did good, Juneteenth, you know? But also being idle, meaning not keeping the commandments. They're going to feed you intellectually, spiritually, which is spiritually, with things offered unto idols. Why Jesus? You know, God loves everybody. These are things offered unto idols, you know, which you'll see through the scriptures, right? Because you're an idol, you're not keeping the commandments, you're going to get fed garbage, man. The same stuff the pig eats on a spiritual level, if you have ears to hear, right? And it says in 69, and they that consent unto them shall be had in derision. So even when you go and follow these heathens, which God told you not to follow, he says, you're gonna catch hell. Had in derision, contemptuous, ridicule, or mockery. So they will have you, they will ridicule you, they'll hate you, they'll have you as a mockery. When you consent unto them, which is what they did to those soldiers, man. They hung 19 of them, right? And spared 8 US soldiers, right? That went and fought and put their life on the line for the United States of America. America hung them, right? Because they were Israelites, right? And they took revenge against Edom, the Edomites, for their brother, right? Now, all praises, those guys took revenge, all praises, you know. You know, but Esau wouldn't let them go, man, you know. And those 8, for all you know, they were righteous men who the Most High spared, you know. Okay, and they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and reproach and trodden underfoot. You see that? Right? So just because when you join, you know, Esau's system and you accept his ways, you're not gonna get benefits from it, man. You're gonna get destruction from the Almighty God. He's gonna send it upon you. You know. Let's move on. We got about 20 more minutes, then we'll wrap up.
The police force of southern cities would send certain police officers to patrol Black communities. Slave patrols in many parts of the South literally become police forces whose job it is to then police newly formed Black communities.
I gotta rewind that. I have to pull that up. The slave, oh my gosh. I gotta hear this again.
The police force of southern cities would send certain police officers to patrol Black communities. Slave patrols in many parts of the South literally become police forces whose job it is to then police newly formed Black communities.
Sound familiar? So the slave patrol that was there to catch you if you're trying to escape to your freedom, these guys became the officers, man. You can't make this up. You can't make this up.
Plantations ultimately turned to prisons, with slave labor giving way to prison labor all across Texas, including Sugar Land.
This building is actually 80 years old.
Prisons, what prisons become plantations?
Newly formed Black communities.
Plantations ultimately turned to prisons.
Plantations turn to prisons. Plantations turn to prisons. Plantations turn into prisons. Okay, we'll look at some scriptures in a couple seconds where the Most High tell you his people are locked in prison houses.
Slave labor giving way to prison labor all across Texas, including Sugar Land.
This building is actually 80 years old. It was originally a prison and part of the Texas prison system.
It was an extension of the Central State Prison Farm. The big brick building known as 2 Camp opened in 1939.
It was a prison population of color, primarily African American, some Hispanic.
The inmates worked the fields of the state-run farm. An inmate recalled that upon arriving at 2 Camp in 1960, he was immediately ushered out into the fields to pick cotton. At the end of a grueling day, workers would return to the dormitory, where life was often just as hard.
They lived in very close quarters, actually in very hot conditions and very cold conditions.
Its occupants are mostly children now, but for 30 years, this structure housed inmates.
All right, good, Isaiah. So the Most High tell you, his people gonna be locked in prison houses, right? The plantations became prisons, brothers and sisters. And today, the plantation, which is our 9 to 5, is a prison, right? Because they give us all the money in the right hand and then they take it all back in the left, and then through bills, and then they give us the money in the right hand and then take it all back in the left through bills. And you save up a little money and something happened and you can't work for a bit and the money disappear. Especially now because food is 30% higher in price, and it's damn near impossible to afford to buy a house, man, in Canada. I don't know what it's like in the US, but I mean, it's not happening in Canada. You need $100,000 and a stress test. So, the Canadian dream is dead. The American dream is dead, right? Because the money is consistently losing value, But before I get too far into that, the Most High said his people would be locked up in prison houses, right? And the plantation literally became the prison house. Isaiah 42:22. This is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith restore. So, man, this is deep. There's a few points in here. Therefore, a spoil and none saith restore. Meaning, hey, they promise you that 40 acres and a mule. You didn't get it, and nobody's gonna force their hand for them to give it to you. Right? People are using and abusing you, you know, and still have you as a prisoner legally the minute you go to jail, but nobody talks about that in 2023. Nobody cares about you in 2023, right? Except your brothers and sisters in the truth and the Most High God, right? Because the Most High say, what is love? How do we know that we love the children of God? When we love God and keep his commandments. So even though your family, your friends, you know, your spouse tell you, I love you, I love you, I love you, they don't even know what love is. You know, they have Esau idea of love in their mind, right? Not the 1 Corinthians chapter 13 idea of love. That's not what's in their mind, right? Not the Leviticus 19:18 idea of love. That's not in their mind, which is to rebuke your neighbor if you have something against him. Love your neighbor as yourself, meaning keep it real with your neighbor, your brothers and sisters, you know. Don't bear any grudge against the children of your people. Love your neighbor as yourself, right? So unless you have the wisdom of the Most High, you don't know that that's what these things mean. You don't know what love is. You're saying I love, but really, I mean, you know, you might just be using the person, you know? And they convenient, they make me feel good, so I love them. Well, that's not love, man, according to the Most High, you know? Anyway, Isaiah 45. Isaiah 45. And we'll go from verse 11. Thus saith Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, and his Maker, ask me of the things to come concerning my sons. So God has sons, man. The Israelites, because he's the Holy One of Israel. Ask me of things to come concerning my sons and concerning the work of my hands. Command ye me, right? Now we know all men are the works of his hands, but we also know this, that you know, he picked some for holy works and he picked some for destruction, right? Let's see here. Brother Chris, are you able to bring out Sirach 33 for me, brother? All right, I don't think he's catching me there. 1 second. I'll bring it on. Look at this. Sirach 33. Okay. And let me see, what do I want? From 10. All men are from the ground, because remember, hey, it says, I'm going to tell you about my sons. God said, I will tell you about my sons. I will tell you about the works of my hands. So let's, you know, so to get proper understanding of what that's saying, because, you know, a Christian will come and say, you see, we're all the works of God's hands. Okay, well, he has sons, though, special works of his hands. And this is one of the scriptures you can use to show them. Sirach 33 verse 10, and all men are from the ground, and Adam was created of earth. In much knowledge, Yahweh have divided them. What? In much knowledge, Yahweh have divided all the men of the earth and made their ways diverse. So people have different ways. because that's how God made them. Some of them have he blessed and exalted, and some of them have he sanctified and set near himself. So God bless some, he big some up, some he hold close to himself, but some of them have he cursed and brought low and turned out of their places. See that? As the clay is in the potter's hand to fashion it at his pleasure, so man is in the hand of him that made him to render to them as liketh him best. See that? Right? Good is set against evil, life against death. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly. Right? The point here being the Most High made all people, but he have some sanctified people. Right? And that's who we are as Israel. Thus saith the Lord, the Holy One of Israel and his Maker, ask me of things to come concerning my sons and concerning the work of my hands. Command ye me. I have made the earth and created man upon it. Even my hands have stretched out the heavens, and all their hosts have I commanded. I have raised him up in righteousness, and I will direct all his ways. He shall build my city, and he shall let go my captives, not for price nor reward, saith Yahweh of armies. See that? Thus saith Yahweh, the labor of Egypt. We're in spiritual Egypt. That's according to Revelation chapter 11 and from verse 8 on down. Thus saith the Lord, the labor of Egypt, the merchandise of Ethiopia and of the Sabians, men of stature, shall come over unto thee. Unto who? The children of Israel. And they shall be thine. They shall come after thee in chains. They shall come over. They shall fall down unto thee. They shall make supplication unto thee, meaning they're going to beg you, saying, surely God is in thee, and there is none else. There is no God, right? Surely thou art a God that hideth thyself, O God of Israel, the Savior, right? Listen, this is what I want. They shall be ashamed and confounded, all of them. They shall go into confusion together that are makers of idols. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord with an everlasting salvation. You shall not be ashamed nor confounded, world without end. See that? So the Most High have it reserved for you, man, for them to let you go out of the prison houses and not for price or reward. Right? Because when they see his strong arm, they have to let you go. When they feel the heat of the fire, they have to ask, what do you want? Give me my people. Right? These people have to come begging and bowing unto you. God will save you if you keep his commandments. You know? First Peter 1, 18 to 19. And this will be, I think this will be the last scripture. And then we'll wrap up for today and we'll do a part 3 next week because I don't want to go too long. First Peter 1 and verse 18, it says, for as much as you know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things as silver and gold from your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers. Yeah? But with the precious blood of Messiah, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot, who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you Israelites, right? So you were not saved from the prison houses by silver and by gold, right? But you were saved from the prison houses, physical prison houses, a lot of us, and definitely spiritual prison houses, spiritual fortifications, spiritual strongholds you were freed from by the blood of Messiah, Yahushua, right? A dark-skinned, black, ugly man with all the power in the universe given to him to make judgment and to save his people, right? So with that, I'm gonna wrap up. We're gonna keep going through the video next week, Lord willing, and you know, wrap it up because I don't want to go too long today. Any questions? Anybody have any questions, comments?
Good as per usual.
All praises. All praises. Okay, well, everybody, enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. Relax, don't buy or sell. You know, yeah, party it up in righteousness. You know, if you have some drinks, have some drinks. You know, if you got some people that you can chill with, definitely do that. But you know, take it easy. It's a day of rest. Don't go too hard. You know, just feast, man. Enjoy some music, relax your mind, relax your body, give thanks and praise unto the Most High. And I give him thanks and praise that you guys were here today, keeping the Shabbat with us here. And may the Most High bless you and keep you and cause his face to shine upon you and give you peace. Have a great week. And I'm here, so reach out if you'll need anything or you just want to talk, you guys answers, whatever, okay? So shalom, love you guys, and everybody have a good Sabbath, okay? Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.